Hello and welcome to Game 61 from TCEC's 15th Superfinal, played between Stockfish and Leela Chess 0. In this game, Stockfish started with d4, and after knight f6, he went for the Trompowsky attack with bishop g5. Now, of course, this opening has been given to them by the big book of TCEC openings. The idea of the Trompowsky is quite simply to take out this knight, double black's pawns, and also sidestep a lot of opening theory from the Indian openings like King's Indian, Queen's Indian, Nimzo Indian, and also the Grimfeld. And now after knight e4, which is a very logical move since it puts pressure on d2 and c3 and harasses this bishop on g5, Stockfish played bishop f4, and now Leela continued with c5 with the idea of coming out with the queen to a5, give a check, and inflict some damage to white's position. And indeed, after f3, right before this knight has to come back home, after queen a5 check, white is forced to play c3 and take away this ideal square from the knight. Other options don't work because after knight c3, knight takes, pawn takes, queen c3 check, either after king f2 or bishop d2, white loses the pawn on d4. And if after queen a5, Stockfish continues with bishop d2, then after knight takes, queen takes, and knight takes, white loses the pawn again on d4. So after queen a5 and c3, Leela retreated the knight back to f6, and now Stockfish played d5, which takes away c6 from the knight on b8. And now Leela attacked the b2 pawn with queen b6. This is usually a good idea when this bishop comes out to f4 g5 and leaves b2 undefended. And in this position, queen b6 is such a good move that the book says now the best move for white is bishop back to c1, defending b2. And this is the end of the book. Leela now played d6, and after Stockfish expanded in the center with e4, she now attacked d5 with e6. Taking on e6 is not very good for white because after f takes on e6, black would have two central pawns versus white's one. And since these pawns are on like squares, there's little chance of this queen coming out and doing some bad things to the black king. So after e6, instead of taking, Stockfish strengthened his center with c4, and now the game continued with g6. This bishop is going to the long diagonal. Knight e2, going to c3. Bishop g7, knight c3, castles, and now bishop e2. Why bishop e2 and not d3? Well, when black fianchettos this bishop to g7 and has this trio of pawns here, white usually wants to attack that with h4 and h5, and then this bishop on e2 can help getting in h5. The game continued with knight e8, and now after h4, if black doesn't want to allow h5, then basically he has two options. He can either play h5 himself and stop opening up the h-file this way, or as in the game, play h6, and after h5, play g5. But after h6, instead of pushing with h5, Stockfish played g4, and after queen back to d8, he developed the bishop to e3. And now Leela bent the knee and picked up the gauntlet from the floor, as they say, with f5. She wants to push maybe f4 and harass this bishop and close down the king side. And taking on f5 is not very good because after pawn takes, and bishop takes on f5, this bishop is a very happy piece. He has influence over all directions here and is defending g6, and is just quite simply a happy piece. So instead of taking after f5, Stockfish chose to push f4 himself. Leela played now queen e7, and Stockfish pushed the h-pawn. He tries to open the h-file. Leela played g5, and in this position Stockfish would like to take on g5, but right now Leela has the intermezzo f4 move, harassing this bishop, and then taking on g5. And having these 2 pawns here is not bad at all for black. So after g5, Stockfish really wants to take here, so he played queen d2, adding extra pressure to the g5 square. But Leela thinks this is a blunder, because now after e5, no matter in which direction this pawn takes, Leela has f4, shutting down the position. Stockfish took on g5, and now after f4 and queen f and bishop f2, she took back on g5, and she's very happy with her position. She thinks this is minus 1.2, while Stockfish thinks this is still better for white, 0.6. Stockfish now continued with queen d3. He wants to play knight d2 and put this knight on f3, where from it attacks the weakened g5 pawn. Leela replied with knight d7. She also wants to put something on f6 and attack g4 and e4. And we will see a lot of high-level maneuvering now from Leela. She improves her pieces to the maximum with moves like bishop f6 and then bishop d8, where from the bishop still defends g5, but it also has active plans like bishop a5 and attacking down this diagonal. One of these knights will come to f6, as I mentioned, to attack the g4 and e4 pawns, and the other knight will go to f8 and h7 to also defend g5. And we jump forward now to move 29, where in this position we can see that Stockfish gathered a lot of his forces to the king side, so he probably has some plans there. Leela continued now with rook b8, and once her king side will be safe, she wants to play b5, open the position and attack the white king. The game continued with king a1, knight f6, knight d1, and now after bishop a5, Stockfish played knight h4. So this is his idea. He wants to jump in to g6 or f5. And Leela can take the knight, because after bishop h4, these pawns are rolling. For example, after queen h7, g5, and knight takes on h5, Stockfish would have g6. And after queen h6, bishop g5, queen takes on g6, bishop takes on h5, queen takes on h5, Stockfish would win Leela's queen with rook h2. So taking the knight is not possible, but Leela now calmly played knight f8, guarding both g6 and f5 with the bishop, and after bishop f3, defending g4 and e4, Stockfish realized that he's in trouble. The game continued with b5, knight c3, queen e8, knight b1, rook b7, and now finally the knight jumps into f5, but Leela just takes him out, g takes on f5, and now after knight h7 defending g5, Leela even has plans of advancing the pawn to g4. So all these pieces, all Stockfish's pieces, have to stay on their positions and guard the g4 square. The h5 pawn is attacked twice, so Stockfish pushed it to h6, and now Leela continued with bishop b4, probably to disallow the a3 square to that knight. Queen e2, and now b takes on c4. And taking back on c4 with the queen is not very good for white, because after queen b5, white doesn't have many good options. If he takes on b5, then after a takes b, these two pawns are very strong. The a file opened up on the king, and black is just much better. Or alternatively, if the queen would move away, let's say to c2, then black gets in c4 and his attack is pretty much dangerous. But after b takes on c4, Stockfish preferred to continue the game with bishop e1, and now after queen d8 and knight c3, Stockfish was expecting queen f8 and getting this pawn on h6, and after queen takes on c4, queen h6, queen a6, rook g7, queen d6, g4, bishop d1 and f3, Stockfish evaluated this position as approximately equal, but Leela had no intention of switching the attack to the king side, and after knight c3 he just simply played rook b8 with the intention to go with the queen to b6 or a5 and continued the attack. The game continued with king b1, but after bishop a3 attacking b2 and knight a4 defending it, they both agreed that white is lost in this position, and after c3 bishop takes and some more moves, we get into this position where after c4 Stockfish attacked the dark squared bishop, but after queen b5 taking that bishop is not very good, because after a takes b4 and bishop back, Leela has rook a8, winning down this knight. But after queen b5, instead of taking the bishop, Stockfish continued with queen c2, and after queen e8, bishop e2 and queen d7, Stockfish has the option to take on c4, but it's not a very good move because now the bishop is not guarding the g4 square, and after bishop takes on c3 and knight takes, Leela has g4 and these pawns are rolling in. So after queen d7, the bishop preferred to go back to f3, and after queen b5, bishop d1, bishop takes on c3 and knight takes on c3, we move forward again a couple of moves in which Leela tries to improve her position, and we get to move 64 in this position where Leela trades down into a winning endgame with rook takes on c3, queen takes, b takes on c3, and now knight e4. And now after bishop f3, she doesn't even go after the c3 pawn, she just moves the knight back to f6, bishop e2, e4, bishop takes on c4, g4, and look at this mighty wall of pawns. The ice wall from Game of Thrones is just a miniature compared to this one. Rook b2, going for some counterplay, knight g5, rook b6, attacking the pawn, knight f7, bishop f1, f3, c4, knight d7, attacking the rook, rook b7, but now the other knight goes to e5, f6, but this pawn is completely ignored, e3, rook b3, and now e2, and the bishop has to give himself up, bishop takes, pawn takes, rook e3, and now knight f3, attacking the rook and also helping this pawn to promote, f7, rook f8, rook takes on g4, and now Leela promotes to a new queen, we check, rook takes, knight takes, and now after rook g6, the game is finally adjudicated in Leela's favor. She is just quite simply two pieces up, and she will eat up all the pawns and win the game. Please subscribe, like and share, and check out some of the other videos. Maybe you like them. Thanks for watching and see you soon.